asking good questions and giving good answers. An important part of the job, because this is the job. Clients will ask you questions. You have to be ready with answers. In reverse, you have to be able to throw back questions to make your clients think. And you want your clients to think, not so much because this is the job. You're just trying to nudge them in a certain direction, but you're trying to make them understand your perspective on the product and the client. The most salient aspect of speaking in this context is the ability to critique and compliment. Take, for example, navigating through roads. I want you to have this mental image of trying to give somebody directions in a city that they've never been to before, and they're only equipped perhaps with a map or maybe with nothing at all. Unlikely, given the technology we have today, but just try to imagine that scenario. In that scenario, you have to be able to describe. You have to be able to describe what things look like. What does a street look like? What is its name? What is the color of the building that you're trying to locate? How many floors are there? You have to be able to leave the client to use that information, what you've said in your description, and your client has to interpret it. So in the context of navigating a street, once you give all these directives, all these descriptions, your client has to be able to understand the logical sequence of that. And when your client is able to understand the logical sequence of that, meaning what it means, now your client can decide for him or herself, how do I get there? If I follow these instructions, I will get there. But do I want to follow these instructions to the T? You leave all of that to the client. Your job primarily is just to describe. But you have to describe well so that they're able to interpret and evaluate later on. Describe. You ask yourself, what is it? What is it that I'm describing? If it's a garment, what category is it? Is it outerwear? Is it intimate? You can go further. Is it a jacket? Is it an overcoat? Is it a shirt? What color is it? What's the texture? How does it feel on my hand? What does it look like visually? What does it weigh visually? When I look at it, does it look like a heavy garment or does it look like a light garment? These descriptions will help you talk about your product better, and these descriptions will help your client make judgments better for themselves. Interpret. So now you're able to describe a particular product or service to your client. Let's stay within the bounds of the suit and cloth and fabric. What does this mean now for the client? What does it mean that the jacket before me is a single-breasted navy jacket? What does it go well with? What events can I use it for? And what of it? Once I know what the garment is, what it looks like, how it's being described, I try it on and I visualize it as a client. I visualize it and I think, well, when am I going to use this? Where am I going to use this? With what garments do I already have will I be able to use it with? Is it a sensible purchase? Is it a sensible purchase now? If I make this purchase now, is it a short-term purchase, or will my children be able to inherit it, or will I be able to resell it later on? How long will this product keep me satisfied until I look for its equivalent or its replacement? Again, the client will not be able to interpret or evaluate properly if you do not describe appropriately. And when you describe appropriately, let's take, for example, this photograph with this man in this garment. Describe. Well, we can start with the most salient features. It is a gray suit. Let's be more specific. It is a gray, single-breasted, three-button suit. Now, we cannot see it from the photograph, but we can further describe it by describing the fabric. What is its composition? Is it wool? Is it light? Is it airy? Is it densely woven? You can talk about all of those things, and then you can talk about the other design aspects. So we can see that it has cuffs, it has turn-ups, it has a very slight break, which offers a very nice silhouette for the legs. And we see that the gentleman has matched it with a nice crisp white shirt with a green tie and a nice hat of a complementary shade. And we can judge, perhaps based on this outfit, that this is in a slightly warm climate. So we see the sun, this is during the day, so perhaps it is a lighter shade of gray than what we would perhaps consider for the evening, because the sun is casting shadows. And because the sun is casting shadows, we might consider that this client is wearing a particularly a lightweight gray wool suit, which is appropriate for the setting and worn well with a brown pair of Oxfords. That's a description. So now we can interpret. We can interpret based on the descriptive qualities of this garment. Again, the environment. It's sunny, perhaps it's warm. Why is it warm? Because the man is not wearing an overcoat. How do we know it's sunny? Perhaps because the man is wearing a hat, and because, again, the shadows are being cast. And it is most likely summer, because the man is not carrying an umbrella. Interpretations. Now we can evaluate that this client perhaps chose this particular mode of dress, a suit, matching fabric for jacket and trousers, complementing even a hat, cap-toe Oxfords, conservative dress, perhaps a businessman conducting his affairs in a Central European city or a Central European town. Let's have another example of something more formal. Let's describe. The man is wearing a morning suit. The morning suit is often worn for very formal events. So we can describe and say that this garment is made up of three aspects: the jacket, the vest or waistcoat, and trousers. We can describe them as being of different shades, different colors, as a morning suit requires. Cut. Retake. 3, 2, 1. And let's discuss this man in the morning dress. Now, the morning dress is formal attire for very formal events, and we can describe simply by enumerating the garments in this piece. So first we have the jacket, the waistcoat or vest, the trousers, and the hat. White gloves. We can describe further the materials, but most likely all of these materials will be of a very lightweight, very fine type of fabric that fares well, again, during the day because it is a morning dress. Now we can interpret. What is it going to be used for? Obviously, a formal event that happens during the day. And we can evaluate. This client attends a very formal event, high level of formality. We can assume, based on that set of set of adjectives. We can put them in the context of certain questions, like what occupation is the client engaged in that the client would be invited or host such events. Again, all of this can be assumed, or all of this can be deduced from a proper description of what it is that you're trying to sell or what it is that you're looking at. So, the most common mistake in sales, and perhaps in communication in English, using the word good. What does it mean when you say that a particular thing is good? Well, that means perhaps it's desirable, but beyond that, we're casting a very wide net. This word is vague. And when you're in the job of being a sales associate or trying to communicate an idea, the last thing you want to be, unless you are intentionally trying to be, the last thing you want to be is be vague. You want to be precise in your speech, because when you are precise in your speech, this communicates the ideas better, and they will be understood better. They have to be accurate. Accurate means something is specific, specified, or generalized. Take, for example, when you say the word blue. When you say the word blue, different shades of blue come into mind. If you wanted to be more accurate, again, if you intend to be accurate, you could say baby blue, and your audience would have a more specific idea of what precisely that blue you're talking about is. And if you say navy, you'll have a different color in mind. This is the benefit of being accurate and precise with your words. People can picture things better. They have to be concrete. Concrete is being able to describe things to make them more perceivable to the senses. So, what does a particular item feel like? Is it rough or is it smooth? Does it have hairy or like furry properties when you touch it? Or is it smooth? Does it shine? Does it glisten in the light? Or is it a matte finish that absorbs all light? How does it drop? For a fabric, if it weighs a lot, does it crease? Or does it not hold a crease? All these will help you describe things in a more concrete manner. People can imagine better what it is that you're trying to describe, and that will only help you in this job. And of course, you have to be efficient. Efficient means you navigate. Efficient means if there is a way to get from point A to B, what is the shortest route possible in terms of time? And are you willing to take that road? Are you willing to walk that road with your client? If you're very good at your job, you do that in the most efficient way possible, meaning you take a very short but scenic route. It's a very enjoyable, it's a very pleasant experience, but it doesn't take up too much time, because time is important for your job and time is important for your client. If you need to move on to the next client, you have to be able to achieve things in a short amount of time. If you're trying to deal with short attention spans, again, you have to deal with words in a very short span of time. But I want you to think about that mental image of trying to navigate a map and you're trying to get from point A to point B. Again, you can take the long route, but that would waste your time, most likely annoy your client, and it just isn't the optimal experience. Whereas you can take a more efficient, structured, organized, and well thought of route, that navigates through these roads in a manner in which you can see what it is that you need to see and get to where you need to go. Describing is like painting a picture without explicitly stating what it is that you would like to describe. Think of these 3 dots. These 3 dots are similar to the words that you will be using in your approach to communicate an idea. If I made out these 3 dots, many people would perhaps draw out a triangle. And that's precisely what you intend to do. See, as the user of these words, you're encouraging the audience, in your case, the client, to be able to reach conclusions for themselves. Of course, you have to guide them because most of them are unwilling to go through that thinking process. But if you're able to guide your client to reach a conclusion that you had intended in the first place without explicitly mentioning all of the details, this will be a more satisfying, a much more fulfilling experience for the client. And this is only possible if you're able to use your words well and draw out that triangle without using lines. Final thought would be, being a sales associate occurs in different levels, in different ways, in different industries. But you have to treat it like a career. And what I mean by that is you invest time to learn the job. You invest time to know your clients. Because more than your clients, before they are your clients, they are people. And people have dignity. And you mustn't set this aside for the sake of a sale. How do you get to know a person? You talk to them. How do you get to know them when you do talk to them? You ask good questions. And when they converse with you, inversely, you give good answers. It's the same when you talk about your product. They will ask you questions about it. They will scrutinize it. And you have to be able to defend its value by giving good answers. And when you give good answers and you ask good questions, you use words. And when you use words, your words must be accurate, concrete, and efficient. And at the end of it, you leave that choice to the client. Will I make this purchase or not? And that client will only reach that question if you are able to describe what it is that you're trying to sell using words that are optimal for this approach. And once you leave them with that choice, they're free to do so. They're free to choose whether or not they'd like to continue with the purchase or continue doing business with you and your establishment. And you leave it at that. That is the job, and you don't make the sale all the time. And if you are a sales associate now, I want you to build yourself in this occupation. It is an occupation that many people perhaps look at as very servile and lacking in dignity. But I think precisely the inverse. That service, as cheesy as it sounds, is in fact a very high form of good. Because you are guiding others towards that which you think is good for them. And you leave them with that choice, whether or not they will take that walk with you. Thank you.